We've heard from hundreds of people who aren't claiming free citizenship and aren't getting second citizenship because they've heard wrong information about how taxes and second citizenship work together. And I'm putting an end to that today. So here's an example of a question that I was asked that speaks to what a lot of people are concerned about. A U.S. citizen interested in a backup plan that it would involve dual citizenship. He's going to continue to have income in the United States, but is not sure how he'll be taxed there. If he gets a Caribbean citizenship by investment, will they tax his worldwide income? Will they tax his investments? What if he goes to Portugal? Not really a citizenship anymore. He doesn't plan on traveling outside of the U.S. more than a week or so at a time, so he's not going to live in these countries, but he's really not sure how dual citizenship works. And so let's be clear on a couple of things. First of all, we've been telling you for years, just having dual citizenship doesn't reduce your taxes. In the same way that you can't live in Canada, set up your company in Belize, go and have one board meeting per year in Belize, and then run the business from Canada but not pay tax and only pay in Belize, you cannot simply get a second citizenship and then use it as a shield against the taxes where you live. And so if you live in a country like Canada, Australia, Germany, the UK, most Western countries that have what's called residential taxation systems, you're able to relocate out of your country, become a non-resident for tax purposes, which is a process that we help with our global network of tax experts and professionals. Once you get out, you can use that second passport to live somewhere else. Let's say you're Canadian and you want to go and live in Panama. But let's say you think, hey, one day Justin Trudeau follows through and he says he doesn't like me and he's going to make it more difficult to renew my passport. Or hey, let's be even a little bit less nefarious about it. Another pandemic happens or whatever other excuse they can have to close down the offices. And the big countries were taking sometimes 6 to 12 months to issue passports. I got my passport renewed in a day during COVID, but somehow the US and Canada and other countries couldn't get their act together. So you might want to say, hey, I'll go with the smaller country's passport. I'll be a resident of Panama under that smaller country's citizenship. And then if I have to go back to Canada, I'll use my Canadian passport. That's a strategy. But until you move out of your country, your taxes aren't going to go down. Now, Americans are taxed no matter where they live. There's a number of exemptions and exclusions and ways that you can legally reduce those taxes. I think the average Nomad Capitalist client who's an American still reduces their taxes when living overseas by 80%. The passport could help you in a number of different ways, but not just by living the way that you're already living. So if you're only going to travel a week a year or a week every once in a while, that's not going to help reduce your taxes, second passport or not. At that point, you are building a backup plan financially that, hey, I have other options. I can go and live in another country as a citizen of a different country, or hey, I can go and live. Let's say I get St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship by investment. I can go and live in St. Kitts and Nevis. They don't have taxes there. And so if I can get out of my country's tax system, either I'm going to be a resident of a country using my second passport, or I'm going to go and live in my second citizenship country if they have a favorable tax deal for me. So just getting the second passport doesn't reduce your taxes. What you have to decide is if you are getting second citizenship, whether it's a plan A or a plan B. So let's step back for a second. You can get second citizenship through your family tree. Nomad Capitalist helps people do that. Let's say you have an Irish grandparent, an Italian great-grandparent, a Slovakian great-grandparent. We've helped people in close to 30 countries get citizenship. Many of those were by descent, and we figured out how to do that, whether it's Romania, heck, even St. Kitts and Nevis. We had one guy who actually, his father was from there. He didn't have to make a donation. He was entitled to it because his father was from Nevis. If you don't qualify for citizenship by descent, or you want more firepower, you can get citizenship by investment. This is going to be a lot faster, a matter of months. Caribbean countries like St. Kitts and Nevis, they don't have taxes there. So if you want to live in St. Kitts and Nevis, it's a lot easier just to be a citizen of the country and never have to worry about renewing a residence permit. Antigua and Barbuda, almost as good on the tax front. Even if you were to get a citizenship of, let's say, St. Lucia, all those Eastern Caribbean countries have certain reciprocal privileges. You can go and live in St. Kitts and Nevis. Most people will never do that. Most people just use the passport as a tool to help them travel, a tool to help them get residences more easily, and a backup plan in case they need it. But you can get citizenship by investment in a matter of months from making a donation. If you're willing to move, that would open you up in some countries to naturalization. If you move to Dubai, not so much. If you move to Dublin or Rome or any number of other, tax-friendly places in Europe, that could put you on the path to a citizenship in anywhere from 5 to 10 years, potentially if you had to learn a language. But that's going to be for someone who's willing to actually move and put time into the ground. Plan A means I want to save taxes today. I want business opportunities in other countries today. I want to enjoy more freedom today, have an adventure today. I'm ready to go, and give me the second passport to make my life easier. And one day, maybe I don't want my first passport, and so the second passport will be there protecting me if I ever want to make that decision. Plan A means I'm moving now. Plan B means I am open to doing any of those things in the future, or I'm just preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and who knows what could happen. Robert Kiyosaki told us at Nomad Capitalist Live, where can you be in 48 hours? And if your passport is at the same level as a Rwandan passport, as the U.S. passport was during the pandemic in 2020, you're not going to have that many places to go. But people who had second passports and second residences were able to get into other countries. Not only those other countries, but sometimes third countries. And so what I want you to do is look at citizenship as neutral when it comes to your finances. Again, if you're an American, you have citizenship-based taxation. You can still reduce your taxes by that 80 or 85% that Americans can in many cases. Some can reduce them to 100, by the way. But Australia is now putting together a version of that for their own citizens. So Australians now, in some cases, are going to have some of the same challenges Americans do. And I think that other countries will start to roll that out in the future. And so citizenship does not stop an American from being an American for tax purposes, but it does give you a way to fight back in the future. The idea that, hey, I'll open that foreign bank account not as an American, but as a St. Kitts citizen, doesn't work that way. An American's an American's an American. If you have 100 other passports, you're still an American. But if you have the 100 other passports, or probably more likely 2 or 3, you wouldn't mind perhaps getting rid of the American one. More true if you were able to get, let's say, a European Union passport that allows you all the travel privileges the American one does. The question is, are citizenships going to stay neutral? The reason that you want to consider a different kind of country for your second citizenship is because, yeah, I do think that some Western countries are going to start to say, hey, we're going to control where you live. And if you don't live the way we want you to live, we're going to start taxing you. Australia is now saying that. Hey, if you live as a digital nomad, just pay us. But citizenships from countries that don't want to be nanny states will continue to be neutral, but they will be winners if you can ever say, hey, you know what, I don't need to be Australian now because it's just too much to keep up with. And so do I think that Ireland or Slovakia are going to try and come out and tax their own citizens no matter where they go, especially not a country that has immigrants in their history? But citizenship is neutral just on its own. You can stack them up, but whatever citizenship you already have or whatever tax situation you already have isn't impacted by the second citizenship. The issue is a country that just doesn't want to bother you. If a country in the Caribbean offers you citizenship in exchange for a donation, it would be bad for business for them to say, hey, listen, you got to start paying up. Why would they do that? Their business would be gone. Vanuatu's passport recently lost visa-free access to the Schengen area in Europe. But Vanuatu really pushed back on that. Why? That became like half of their government's revenue was the Citizenship by Investment program. And if they could not offer as many citizenships to investors, they may not be able to run their country. So let's just go through a couple of quick things. If you don't want to move, golden visas, the questioner asked about Portugal. That golden visa is going away. And so that was really the one left where you do not have to move to the country in order to be able to be on the citizenship track. There are other golden visas in Europe that offer good residence permits as a backup if you don't want to move there. And if you do want to move there, either now or in the future, you can just start the clock running whenever you move in. But golden visas that allow you to work towards European citizenship without living there are basically have gone the way of the dodo bird. Malta's citizenship program takes about 18 months, costs about $1 million, probably won't be around forever. People who want the creme de la creme when they come to us, we help them with Malta's citizenship program. It's a little bit slower than the Caribbean programs. They are throwing a few roadblocks in, very minor in my opinion, but it shows that citizenship will be harder to get. Citizenship by descent can work if you don't want to move. Other than that, I mean, you either need to make some exceptional contribution, sometimes in the millions of dollars, or you're going to have to move. There's a lot of confusion here. Guy came to us a little while ago, wanted to get citizenship by investment for the whole family. We told him, hey, you know what? Only you really need the second citizenship for what you're looking for. So we went from spending 150, I think, down to about 100. Then we said, wait a second, you qualify for citizenship by descent, and it's one of the faster ones. Ultimately, we were able to save him close to $150,000 that he thought he had to spend. But if you're listening to this, what you're hearing is citizenship is a great way to increase your options, whether you're moving now or whether you're not. But things are getting a little harder. I don't think anybody keeps up with the changing regulations, the changing programs, the changing everything as well as Nomad Capitalist, because we've helped people get citizenship in nearly 30 different countries, and therefore we can tell you what you actually need rather than a limited number of things we have to sell you. If you're looking at getting Caribbean citizenship, listen, you might pay a little more with Nomad Capitalist. Quite frankly, by the time you add up all the other hidden expenses that no one else tells you about, it's not going to be much more at all, and you're going to get more of a white glove service rather than just getting thrown a list of documents to collect. But you also might figure out that the citizenship you thought you wanted, that a salesman told you, isn't needed, and you can get something cheaper. We've saved multiple people six-figure sums by correcting misconceptions on dual citizenship and on second citizenships. That's the value that Nomad Capitalist offers by taking a holistic approach where you are not someone to sell, you are somebody to serve. And we're going to put together the plan. We've done something like 80 different countries across banking and tax planning and company formation and residences and passports. That's a lot of options to choose from that nobody else has. Nobody else keeps up to date with them. And so if you're trying to figure out how do I get a passport and set myself up for better banking, lower taxes, whatever it may be, that's what we do. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn more. So with more countries rolling out potential tax restrictions on their citizens, having those backup passports will be important. You can live in other countries, you can travel longer in other countries, you can oftentimes pass them down to your children, create a legacy for generations to come. And so if you don't want to move, you can still get second citizenship, but realize the options are shrinking a bit.